we've got a little tidbit and an update on the Watch Dogs franchise. Now, I don't know about you two, but I actually am a pretty big fan of Watch Dogs. When the original game was coming out, I had dreams of the first Watch Dogs. Okay. I wanted it to be good. And yeah, it wasn't that good, but...
Were you tricked by the E3 trailer?
Everyone was,
we all were.
Everyone was tricked by the E3 trailer, but I think the remarkable thing about the franchise, for me anyway, they then pulled it around. Watch Dogs 2, I thought was really, really good. I thought it was an important course correction. I liked the fun that it was injected into the franchise. Still wasn't perfect by any means. Still had a lot of flaws. And then it was really disappointing for me to see that not followed up on with Watch Dogs Legion. Mm-hmm. And that brings us to today, because a French Ubisoft leaker, known as just Jonathan on Twitter, has tweeted saying that apparently the franchise is now just completely dead. Apparently, in classic Ubisoft fashion, they were trying to transfer the Watch Dog IP into the realm of Battle Royale.
Oh, wow.
If you can believe that. It's not like they've tried and failed with that before, but that's dead as well. So essentially, for the foreseeable, no more Watch Dogs. And I know Watch Dogs, like you were alluding to just then, has been pretty much a punching bag for the last decade at this point, and it's emblematic of unfulfilled potential. And we were just talking about being naive in the previous part of this podcast. But call me naive, I hope. With a Watch Dogs 4 or Watch Dogs 5, I could have lived up to that glorious trailer we saw so long ago.
Can you name me the protagonist of Watch Dogs?
Yes, he's called Aiden.
Aiden Pierce, I think it is.
The first one.
But the second one?
I think he's called Marcus something.
This is the issue I have with the game. Yeah. They're very forgettable for me personally. I don't really have any skin in this topic, so I'll let Joe go. But yeah, it's it is what it is.
I don't have much skin in this game either, but I heard this news and no, I've not got a great deal of history with Watch Dogs. I remember being extremely excited by that first trailer.
Yeah.
And it looked so promising. This was a brand new IP from Ubisoft, who I think had already begun to feel like it was spinning its wheels a bit by just the Assassin's Creed and Far Cry churn was starting to feel like a churn, So a new IP, great, really exciting trailer. It's modern day. It's kind of a metropolitan city with so many interesting kind of mechanics and systems at play, which obviously all turned out to be largely falsified. By the time I actually bought the game, it had been out for ages at this point, and I bought it for a pittance, thinking, come on, I'll give it a go anyway. I'm sure it's not quite as bad as everyone said it was, and I thought it was just such an unbelievably dull experience. And I'd got a certain way into it, and you can probably cut all this bit.
No.
But my experience, the point where I gave up on Watch Dogs was after really forcing myself to get into it. One of the random crimes was occurring, and it was like you got to wait for the random crime to properly start. And it was and it was near a gas station or something. And what happened was some guy started shooting at someone else, which caused a car accident, which blew up the entire gas station.
Yes.
And then what happened? It said crime solved and gave me 100 XP, and I was like, I'm turning this off.
Joel, that's the untapped potential of Watch Dogs, because it's
well, that could have been great.
It's come on, let me. You got to go out and solve this crime almost before it happens. It's got this weird Minority Report precognition thing going on. And Aiden Pierce's, his solution every time is what if I shot you in the head?
Yeah.
Carjacker, you're dead.
Yeah.
I'm going to explode you in this entire fireball of gaseous nightmare fuel. But
I hadn't even done anything. I was watching this happen, and I got credit for solving a crime in which 17 people were killed and half a city block was destroyed.
I think it's a butterfly effect thing, because if you messed around with some traffic lights 5 blocks down, that's the consequence of your
Maybe it was my fault. All right, fair enough. But other than that, I found the narrative, and I'm a narrative guy. I want to play a game which has a strong narrative. I'm there for the writing for the most part with games. That's why I almost solely play sort of single single-player games and story-based games. I'm not much of a multiplayer guy. I'm not much of a live service guy. And Watch Dogs 1 was so just unremittingly dull and dour that I gave up on it. Watch Dogs 2, again, I never really got round to. Like, I just heard it wasn't great, and I thought, it's another 6 out of 10 title, this. And then Watch Dogs Legion, the thing that I found really off-putting, because that sounded like it had a lot of potential. Being set in Britain, I thought was a nice idea. Having this kind of slightly more open and free-flowing system was, this sounded good as well. But then it turned out that all the NPCs were being done using an AI tool.
Yes.
And I have friends who are voice actors who have been, doing varying levels of work in video games, and they were appalled and they were so worried by it, and they were like, that's just huge amounts of work lost. And I thought, I can't support this.
It's
I can't support this
fascinating,
game.
isn't it? I think about Watch Dogs Legion so much in the current climate we're in, where AI now is such a talking point.
Yep.
And that preceded this wave of, not even acceptance, but in some regards into certain companies, an acceptance of AI usage, but then a huge pushback, like you said, from the actual people whose livelihoods pretty much everyone in the field to varying degrees included, pushing back on it. But Watch Dogs Legion's USP at the time was everything is, all these NPCs, the dialogue, AI generated. We're going to pitch shift the performances. We're going to kind of change the script a little bit so it all feels a little bit different. And imagine that coming out now. I could not picture it whatsoever. But I do think within that context, like you said, Legio, the first game, the first Watch Dogs, very dour, very self-serious, over the top in its seriousness.
Yeah.
The second game, almost a soft reboot, a new set of characters existing in the same world, a new city, a new art style, a more colourful, playful tone.
Yeah.
And then Watch Dogs Legion, again, almost indicative by its title, a completely new experience. This idea of, again, a brand new city. We're completely changing the approach to story and characters this time around. So in a way, I can see why Ubisoft has given up on the franchise, because they've essentially rebooted it twice by now. They've had 3 cracks at it. None of them have really caught on.
No.
Why is it always Battle Royale? They're just trying to chase this trend that, like you said when we were discussing this earlier, it's 6 years old at this point.
Yeah, Battle Royale, that's new. A novel. Really?
It's like they have a real issue with trying to evolve their games. Like if you look at Far Cry, it's the same game as Far Cry 3, Far Cry 6 anyway.
Yeah.
And then they were talking about Far Cry 7, who was it going to have in it? But it just sounds like more of the same stuff. And why, to them, is their evolution in franchises straight to Battle Royale all the time?
Yeah, it is. No,
like,
absolutely. There was a huge backlash when they announced, was it Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Frontline, I want to say?
Frontline was the one that was cancelled, yes.
That's the one. And that was going to be, similarly, a sort of pivot into Battle Royale, sort of Warzone chasing gameplay. And at the time, everyone said, just make a Battle Royale. If you are not confident in the core gameplay loop you have envisioned or put down on paper, and you think you need to attach a known franchise to it to get it to sell, don't do it. That's flawed from the beginning, right? And at least no one liked Ghost Recon Frontlines. No one liked the idea of it. As a Ghost Recon fan, I thought it was dumb. But even that, in as badly conceptualized as it was, made more sense than Watch Dogs Battle Royale.
Yeah, definitely.
Jonathan does say that they apparently had an original idea for what that might be, but I just don't think that concoction of elements, and this is probably why it was cancelled, it being the next Watch Dogs game, it being Battle Royale, and it being so late to the party, like you've mentioned. Why is Ubisoft's approach now to chase trends so aggressively? It's so hard to remember when the company was releasing something like Assassin's Creed and it had stuff that you hadn't seen before, or even Far Cry 3, which obviously based on a previous IP following up the incredible Far Cry 2, but defining essentially the open world template for, at least in the first person shooter space, for the next decade. And then at some point along the line, they just decided, Assassin's Creed's going to go to be a live service. We're going to try and pivot these franchises into being battle royales and everything else like Far Cry. Yeah. What if you just stayed the same? What if we did nothing? It's they're such a frustrating company, and you always think they're going to learn like how to not be creatively and how to to get back to what people embrace them for in the first place.
It's either Battle Royale or we'll just stay exactly the same.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
the worrying thing is they've got Star Wars now as well. Star Wars Outlaws.
Yeah.
And I just
Yes.
wonder what's going to be the future of that, because I'm hearing mixed things about that one.
That's one where I look at it and like Embracer almost, I've almost just lost faith in all current Ubisoft products. When something comes out that's actually quite good, the Avatar game, surprisingly, pretty good. It's just like no one's almost paying attention to them because it's almost like you know what an Ubisoft game is going to be before you even get it in your hands.
Yeah.
And I look at Star Wars Outlaws and I look at some things that show a lot of promise. Some of the cool looking characters, the idea of, being able to explore this world, going to space, all of that jazz. It looks like it has a lot of ambition, but my worry is I spend $70 on it or $120 for the special edition, get it into my console day one, and it just plays like another Ubisoft game, and I'm doing the same stuff over and over again.
You can see that happening as well. So I've just bought a PC.
Nice.
And with that PC, there was like some promotion thing. So I'm getting Star Wars Outlaws like with that promotion. So
Really?
I don't have to
Okay.
play for it, so I can try it and I can let you know how
Let
it
us
is
know.
before you spend the money on it. But
Well, thank you very much, Dan Durkin. You are doing the review in a few months' time now.
even then, though, I'm not overly thrilled to be playing it, even though I'm getting it for nothing. It's like I will try it because I love Star Wars, but it's like it's another Ubisoft game, and
Yes.
I'm kind of tired of that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think now, this year into the next year, we're at like a pivot point for this company in terms of creative. I feel like a lot of the kind of new approaches they put into practice and their pivots with their franchise is going to start. We're going to start seeing them. The pivot into live services with the next Assassin's Creed. We'll finally be seeing what that looks like when Assassin's Creed Infinity launches, either at the end of the year or the start of next year. We're going to see Star Wars Outlaws after they announced that partnership with Lucasfilm all those years ago. We're going to probably see what the next Far Cry looks like. We're going to see maybe X-Defiant if that game ever comes out. And, again, you don't want to be cynical, but
It's hard not to be,
It's
though.
hard
Yeah,
not to
it
be
really is hard.
with certain companies, and I think that's a shame, especially when you kill off Watch Dogs and Splinter Cell is nowhere to be seen. What the hell is going on
Don't even
with
mention
that game?
Splinter Cell.
Don't even mention Sam Fisher's name around here.
Scott's not even here. We're mourning Splinter Cell.
Somewhere Scott's just heard the Splinter Cell goggles turn on. I can't even do the sound effect for that. There we go. That's it. Absolutely. I don't know if you guys ever played Siege, Rainbow Six Siege.
No, I played. Was it Outbreak or whatever? It was the like alien version.
Quarantine,
Was it Quarantine?
That's what it was originally called. I think it was called Extraction by the
I
end
played
of it.
that, and that was really good. Like surprisingly good.
Honest, man. Like it's to me it's hilarious because every time an Ubisoft sequel comes out, it's a game that I'm like, I don't want this. I don't need another Far Cry that plays like the other Far Cries. I don't need another Assassin's Creed that is going to be 150 hours and bloated beyond belief. But the one game that I want them to make a sequel to, Rainbow Six Siege, they refuse to do it because that live service platform is so successful for them. But I'm like, I want a new version, but they refuse to do it, just as they refuse to make a new Watch Dogs.